When you're setting up a home office or a small studio, the temptation to grab the cheapest surge protector you see on a garage sale shelf is real. I've watched too many people swear they'll just add a battery later and then end up with a dead computer, a corrupted video file, or a lost workday because the cheap unit couldn't keep the power steady when the grid hiccuped. The regret is almost instantaneous. You plug in, the lights flicker, and you realize you've bought a false sense of safety. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The question, then, is whether the APC Smart UPS 1500 VA feels like a smarter buy or just another pricey gimmick. First, let's talk about why a true online UPS matters. In an online, or double conversion, design, the incoming AC is constantly turned into DC, then back into clean sine wave AC before it reaches your equipment. That means there's no transfer time when the power fails. The outlet voltage never drops. For anyone who runs a desktop with a high-end graphics card, a network-attached storage array, or a modest server, that uninterrupted sine wave can be the difference between a graceful shutdown and a corrupted RAID rebuild. The APC SRT 1500 XLA is built around that principle, promising a solid 1350W of real power while still fitting into a 19-inch rack if you need it. Now, who actually benefits from that level of protection? If you're a freelance video editor who runs Premiere Pro for hours on end, the extra buffer of 1500 VA means the unit can keep your workstation alive long enough to finish rendering or at least write a proper shutdown script. The same goes for a home-based accountant who runs multiple virtual machines. A sudden brownout can cause those VMs to crash, potentially corrupting client data. For a gamer with a custom PC, the UPS can prevent that dreaded blue screen of death that sometimes follows a brief power dip, especially if you're using a high-end power supply that expects a clean voltage curve. On the flip side, if you simply need to protect a router, a few smartphone chargers, or a modest Wi-Fi extender, you're probably over-engineering. Those devices usually survive a brief outage without any trouble, and a basic line conditioner would cost a fraction of the price. In those scenarios, you end up paying for capacity you'll never use, and the extra battery runtime you can add later becomes an unnecessary expense. The real strength of the APC model lies in its modularity. The smart slot lets you pop in a network management card, turning the UPS into a remotely monitorable device. In practice, that means you can set up an email alert for low battery, schedule automatic shutdowns for your workstation, or even integrate the UPS into a larger data center monitoring dashboard if you have one. I've seen IT admins use that feature to keep an eye on a cluster of small servers in a co-working space. When the UPS hits a critical level, a script runs to safely shut down each machine in order. For a home user, you could simply receive a text when the battery is down, giving you a chance to save your work before the unit finally runs out. Another practical perk is the ability to add external battery packs. The base unit gives you roughly 10 minutes of runtime at full load, which is enough to trigger an orderly shutdown but not enough to keep you working. If you add a single external pack, you push that runtime into the half-hour range. Still modest, but far more useful if you have an internet-dependent job and need a little buffer to finish uploading a client file before the lights go out. The downside, though, is that those extra packs are sold separately and can add a few $100s to the total cost. It's a trade-off you need to consider before you buy. Speaking of cost, the price point of the SRT 1500 XLA sits in the upper mid-range for home office UPS units. You're paying for the online conversion topology, the rack-mountable chassis, and the future-proofing of the smart slot. If you compare that to a basic line interactive unit of similar VA rating, you'll notice a noticeable price gap. The question becomes, does the added reliability justify the extra spend? In my view, the answer hinges on your tolerance for downtime. For a freelance professional whose income depends on meeting deadlines, the peace of mind can be worth every penny. For a hobbyist who only uses a PC a few hours a week, the same peace of mind might be better bought as a cheap UPS and a separate surge protector. One weakness that shows up after the first few months is the fan noise. Because the unit is always converting power, the internal fan runs continuously. In a quiet home office, the hum can become noticeable, especially when the UPS is under heavy load. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something to be aware of if you're recording podcasts or streaming live and need a silent environment. Also, The LCD display, while functional, is fairly basic. It tells you battery percent and load, but it doesn't give granular voltage waveforms or temperature readouts.